Is your life a mess? Whatever your current mess is.
And we're not talking about the mess in your kitchen or your living room or your bedroom. We're not talking about a physical mess, although that might be part of the problem. We're talking about that mess that's going on inside your head. Those messy circumstances in your life. And you'll know what that is in your own life because we know what they are in our lives. We want you to know that you are not alone.
Maybe your weight is a big mess. You've been trying to lose weight forever and you just can't seem to get that weight off. That's a mess.
Yeah. Maybe you are in the midst of a divorce and it's really difficult and you're struggling to navigate how to move forward, what life is going to look like. There's a lot of fear there because of the unknown. Or maybe you're in a difficult relationship, whether it's with a spouse or you've got an estrangement in your family or a friendship that's kind of being torn apart. That can be a big mess that takes up a lot of space in our heads.
Maybe you're dealing with a lot of pain, or you have some illness or family issues that are loved ones who are dealing with real health issues. That can really look like a big mess and you don't know how to deal with it. Maybe you're dealing with anxiety, and that anxiety is like really seeping into every aspect of your life and it becomes this huge mountain. It's a real mess.
And even though you might logically know that it's crazy what you're anxious about, that doesn't change the fact that you're struggling. That doesn't change the mess in your head.
That's right. Maybe you're living in sin, and those are harsh words, but maybe you know that you're walking down the wrong path. You're doing the things that you don't want to do and you want to get out of it, but you just don't know how. You feel like your life is in such a mess.
Whatever your mess is, maybe it's about your self-image or your body image or the value or worth that you have.
Or maybe it's about finances. Maybe your financial situation is a disaster. That's like a big mess.
Yeah. Wherever you're at, today we want to talk about this one thing. Your mess becomes your message.
Have you ever thought that a mess that you're in right now could actually turn into a testimony? You might not know who we are, but we're Ruth and Casey, and we love to talk about things that encourage you, things that are important in our everyday living, so that we can continue forward, learning and growing and becoming more like Jesus.
I think the thing is, when we talk about our mess becoming our message, really, it's like we said, it's a testimony, right? Where whatever you're currently struggling with, that can become a testimony of God's grace in your life, of God's sovereignty in your life, of God's provision in your life. But the thing is, we have to be willing to turn that mess into a message. He walks with us through the valley, right? We know that from Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. We don't have to fear, even through those valleys, even through the mess. And that's not to say it's going to all of a sudden be easy. That's not what it says. It says we don't have to fear.
That's a big component. When we know we don't have to fear, it allows us to take the next step. We might not know what the next 10 steps are going to be, but we don't have to worry about the next 10 steps. We have to worry about the next step. What is the next step to propel us forward, to moving our life or to changing it up so that we can turn that mess into a message? We don't want to stay stuck in the mess. We need to get out of it because it makes our life not worth living.
When we're in the midst of the mess, often we're living like we're defeated. And we are the opposite of defeated. We are more than conquerors. And so we have to learn how to turn the mess into the message because we are victorious. And if you think about your current mess or your current circumstance, at the heart of it, we want to ask you if it's based in fear. Because most of the messes in our lives cause us to fear. They cause us to fear being alone. They cause us to fear that we won't have the security that we're looking for, maybe financially, maybe security in a relationship, maybe security in who we are. We fear not having those things.
That's right. I want to give you an example right now of how one of the messes in my hubby and my life became our message. My husband was a cop, a policeman in law enforcement for 35 years, and he served his country well. But after he retired, after 35 years of service, he fell victim to PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and it was a very difficult, devastating time. It was a huge mess. I want to say. And, we did so much to help my husband get better. Like, we spent thousands of dollars on coaches, on different health aspects to help him just become better, to help him grow and learn and to be able to deal with his situations that were dragging him down.
And I want to say lots on mental health support and
That's
mental
right.
wellness, because that's all part of it.
That's right.
And it's not wrong as Christians to get help with our mental health. Okay?
Absolutely.
Let's just say it.
But one of the big things in this mess was that we hired a coach to help us move forward. And he said, sometimes your greatest barriers can be your greatest successes. And so if you think of climbing a huge mountain, you want to talk about the success of climbing that mountain. Like, it was a struggle. Like, you had to pack that heavy pack on your back, and you had to be drinking water or you'd get dehydrated, and you had to have the dehydrated food along with you to give you the nourishment your body needed to climb that great big mountain. It was a struggle, but in the end, you got to the mountaintop and you saw the beauty all around you. It was a struggle all the way up that steep mountain, but when you got there, wow, the results were so worth it. And that's what the journey was like for my husband. He struggled to get out of that deep hole. He struggled and he struggled. He was in a mess. But with every step forward, he took another step up the mountain. And when he got out of the pit, he could see all the beauty around him. And he realized that God had brought him out of the depths of despair, literally, quite literally. And along this journey, we realized that he had a message to share. He had so much value that he could bring to others who were struggling with the same issues. And so our coach helped us realize that, wow, all we had to do is turn our mess into a message, and we can help so many people.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we can change our messes for the good.
And it doesn't have to be that your mess is going to be this message to the millions, right?
No.
Your message might be for one person.
That's right.
Right? And we have to start looking at our mess from the perspective of, what is God trying to teach me through this? And what does God want me to do through this? And what is God doing in me through this, right? And, we have to start looking at the fact that God does not leave us. God didn't bring you this far to drop you off on the curb and let you go.
Absolutely. And there's a song this is an old song, but B.J. Thomas talks about that in one of his songs. I didn't bring you this far to drop you or to leave you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a verse in the Bible that goes along with that. And it's from Philippians 1 verse 6. And I just want to read it. Got it on my phone here. I am confident of this, that the one who began a good work among you will bring it to completion by the day of Jesus Christ. He wants to turn your mess into a message. He wants you to be able to use what he has brought you through to encourage and help others.
Mm-hmm. And what we want you to know is that it takes vulnerability.
Yeah,
it takes courage to show up and share your mess. And this entire channel that you are here watching is a product of our messes that we have turned into our message. And if you're here watching and you have not subscribed to our channel, we would love to ask you to do that, because it really helps encourage us as we continue to share our message of, as women of faith, we have to start living like we are who God says we are. We can't live like we're defeated, like we're nobodies, like we're overcome with all of the circumstances in our life, because we are overcomers.
That's right.
And so, we really are here to encourage you and to help you start stepping into the purpose that God has for your life. And it might just be that your mess becoming your message is the purpose right now that you need to step into.
So we just want to once again encourage you to think about what mess you're in right now, because we know that God is going to carry you through that mess. He is going to walk alongside you until you're up on top of the mountain, not down in the pit, because he wants you to be an overcomer. He tells us that we are more than conquerors. So we do believe that you can be an overcomer too.
Mm-hmm. And this isn't at all to make light of your situation. It might be an incredibly difficult situation, but God's still with you, walking with you through that situation. And all of the truths in the Bible are still true, regardless of how hard your circumstances are. And we can say that because we've lived through hard things ourselves, and we know that God didn't bring us this far to leave us here. And so we really today want to encourage you that if there's any sort of like nudging in your heart that God is saying, I'm going to do a work in you and through you with your current circumstances, then surrender it and allow him to do that.
Yeah, be vulnerable, be courageous. You know, sometimes when you're in the midst of a mess, you don't feel like talking about it. You want to have it hidden. You want it to go deep and bury it under the sand. But you know, probably what you need to do the most is to start first thinking about it, talking to God about it, and asking God who you can share your mess with. We really need to share and be vulnerable in order for us to be able to step out of that pit.
Yeah, and often sharing is one of the steps in walking towards healing and walking out of the mess. And so it's scary and it's hard, but like Psalms 23 says, we don't have to live in fear, right? We don't have to fear evil. And so it's scary, but do it anyway.
Thanks for being here watching us. And again, we just ask that you subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already. But we want to end by saying it's time for you to stop living defeated
and step into the purpose that God has for your life.